pray with me. Faithful and abiding God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all our hearts be mingled with your Spirit, leading us into thankful reflection and commitment in building your kingdom through the ministry of this church to all the world by your amazing love. Amen. This morning, we top off our Stewardship series, where we have been talking about what it looks like to put our whole selves into our faith through the participation of this church. So we have explored 5 different aspects of active engagement in the church and in the United Methodist Church. The vows that we make of commitment. And we've talked about how not only the church benefits, but how our faith grows as we go all in with our whole selves. Through our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, our witness. On the final week of this series, we celebrate all these blessings that God has made in and surrounded us with, and we offer up our intentions for the coming year as we consecrate our pledges or our promises to support the church and the ministry to share the good news of Jesus Christ and to spread God's love. So today, I want to invite us to take stock of the blessings that God has poured out into our lives. Our gratitude can be more than simply a scorecard or a laundry list of things we enjoy. Though that is a great place to start, and I don't not invite you to do that, but I want us to think about how gratitude calls us to give back to God and others as part of our grateful response to the gifts we receive. As we receive, so too should we give. In Paul's letter to the church of Corinth, he calls the members of the church to respond to the blessings that God pours out in abundance with generosity to others. Generosity that not only supplies the needs of the saints, but as Ruth shared in this scripture, overflows with many thanksgivings to God. Paul teaches that God never blesses us for ourselves alone. God gives to us so that we can give to others. This is how we best show our gratitude, my friends, by giving to others and giving to God. According to Paul, thankful giving or thanksgiving is a renewable resource. When we respond to the blessing in our lives with gratitude and generosity to others, it results in a sense of abundance rather than scarcity, which improves our outlook on life and increases our gratitude, not to mention the blessings and gratitude of those who receive these gifts, the gifts we offer. Thus, generosity results in gratitude in us and others, which yields more thankfulness. And we begin again with more gratitude. Do you see how this goes? Producing more generosity. So, as we respond to gratitude, more generosity, it continues to build in us as we see it build in others. So it happens again and again and again. As long as we don't allow stress and pressure that the world puts on us by pulling us back into this mindset of scarcity, we can stay in this positive feedback loop of gratitude and generosity forever, with an ever-increasing abundance of blessings for all. This might seem foreign to us since we are used to living in terms of scarcity, because that's what the world tells us, right? That's what our culture tells us. It doesn't talk about abundance, it talks about scarcity. We are forever plagued by the fear that there's never enough to go around. Think about that in your lives. There's never enough time to get everything done. Anybody ever felt that way? Right? Never enough money to make us feel truly secure. So we work harder and longer trying to be secure. Never enough love for us to get our fill. So we keep seeking it. We're more conscious of our scarcity than our abundance. So it's safer to hold on to what we have than to be generous with others. But when we approach life with a spirit of thankfulness, it can create in us an abundant mindset. When we focus on the positives in our life, we are thankful. The more thankful we feel, and this is scientifically proven, folks. So I'm just not just telling you this because I believe it. It's fact that when we feel more thankful, the more joy we feel. And joy is contagious. It overflows, and we want to share it with others. And we're never too young to put this lesson into practice either. As we hear from Alice, the mother of 2 young sons. The refrigerator in Alice's household has a picture of a cow and a couple of goats. Now, maybe that doesn't sound so unusual, because all of us have strange things on the front of our refrigerators. Am I correct? We have a lot of strange magnets on ours. I don't know about you all. We have pictures from when our kids were little all the way up, right? So, maybe that doesn't sound odd to have a picture of a cow and a couple of goats. But what is unusual about these refrigerator adornments is that the cow's name is smartphone, okay? You see where I'm going here already. And the goat's name is PlayStation and Xbox. Remember, Alice has 2 sons. This is starting to make sense, right? And if you don't know, those are popular gaming consoles, but I'm sure you know that. So one night, Alice was watching TV with her 2 young sons when they saw an ad for an overseas charity for children. According to the ad, $20 would feed 1 child for a month. She mentioned to her son that they had planned on spending $20 per month on faster internet service. A necessary item, right, in many households. Then she asked the boys to decide where the money should go. And they voted unanimously for the children's charity. After that, Alice saw new ways to help her children develop this deep sense, this deep spirit to give to others. Each time they wanted to make a purchase, she would ask them to weigh it against spending that money on the item and the charity. She obtained a catalog from Heifer International, which many of us know about because many years ago we did that charity and raised over $5,000 for it, right? Had petting zoo at the end, quite a celebration. We know that Heifer International donates farm animals to people in impoverished areas. And these animals can provide meat and milk and eggs and leather and an income for a future. The boys responded positively. So instead of a smartphone, they had this picture of a cow on their refrigerator. And instead of video games or video consoles, they had pictures of these goats. Now, did the boys resent this emphasis on helping others? If they did, they didn't show it. In fact, the boys were so excited by this opportunity that they began picking up odd jobs around the neighborhood to raise more money, to give more to this charity. So Alice's family lived out this understanding that simply says, a prayer of thanks is not enough. It's a great start, but it's not enough. Our expression of gratitude reaches completion when we share our gifts with others. That's what we're called to do. When we share our blessings, we create a thankfulness and joy in other people. And when that's done through the church, we're sharing the message of good news of who Jesus is and how Jesus invites us to follow and love. Gratitude and generosity feed on each other. Give out of gratitude, and your sense of gratitude will continue to grow bigger and bigger. No wonder Paul closed this section of his letter with these words: "Thanks be to God for this indescribable gift." So I invite you to think about, how will you offer thanks to God for this incredible life and gift of faith and love? Each week, I've been inviting someone to share a testimony. Didn't necessarily have on my horizon to have one today. But I've been asking people to talk about their faith, and maybe even talk about how the church, how their faith has grown, how it has changed the church and themselves by putting their faith into prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. All of them. So as we were approaching the end of this series and this coming week, Lydia Smith asked if she could speak. And of course I said yes, because anytime one of you wants to speak, I'm all for it. I'm especially all for it when it's a young person, a teenager, and especially when it's my own daughter. So I invite us to welcome Lydia as she shares what it means to grow in faith as a member of this church.
Hey. Sorry, I had to do a signature hi. So, one of my favorite staff members at my school, I recently found out that his official title is anti-bullying specialist, but that technically I realize isn't always the reason I visit him so often, thankfully. However, I'm always a frequent flyer at his office. So he and I will always chit-chat about practically everything under the sun, and if there's something on my mind that I need to get out, I know that he is always there to listen. He is always the first person I write an email to for Teacher Appreciation Week. And as he will always say, my door is always open. He and I have a close connection that not many students and teachers have. I could start telling a story when he comes up with a really good point, and then I get mad because I know that he's right, and usually it ends up in laughter because we both know that he's always right. A little bit about me, if you haven't already guessed, is that I'm always worrying about something. Whether it's the future or sometimes past events, there is always something floating in my brain. Something keeping me on the edge of my seat. And when I would express these concerns or events that I'm worrying about to him, he would always say, "Be where your feet are." Be where your feet are. It's a simple 5-word sentence that I'm always pondering. When I relate this to my faith, I am constantly wondering, what does it all mean? What is the point of spending every Sunday morning in a church? What am I supposed to say when my classmates who constantly ask me, "So, do you actually believe in God?" Well, that's a great question, because I have absolutely no idea. Every day, I wrestle with what I believe. Whether it's who God is or how he is present in my life, I just can't quite figure it out. However, I have learned that faith and God aren't things that are supposed to necessarily be figured out. It's a level of trust and belief that you have in yourself and the higher power. Through my 14 years of being at this church, I have gained a sense of support and love for my growth in faith. Due to my pastoral heritage, let's call it, I have been immersed in this environment from the beginning. And as I've gotten older, I became more and more involved in the activities and events. As time went on, though, it started to seem more of a routine to come to church than an actual time to be with God. Faith isn't a rule book to me. It's not something you read and it doesn't give you step-by-step instructions. That's not just how it works. Faith is constantly ever-changing, and it's something that's hard to understand sometimes. But that doesn't mean we can't trust and have hope in God. To witness God's work in everything I do and know that he is always working in my best interest. When I realize how special it is to wake up on a new day and be thankful for my breath, my presence, and my whole being. The gratitude I feel to know that God is always going to have my back. To trust in someone not knowing what the future holds is a level of devotion that I can only imagine with someone like God. To know that at times when all feels like it's over and there's nothing to hold on to, God is there. God is with me, and he is my God, and I wouldn't be here without him. Whether it's my gifts, my talents, my voice, or anything that I can offer, I have the choice to grow and strengthen my relationship with Christ. I am grateful to have a church to come to in order to immerse myself in faith. Having a church family to build a connection with is a blessing beyond imagination. I choose to be where my feet are. I get up every day, and I thank God that I have lived another day. I have another chance. Another fresh start. The greatest gift of all to me is life, and we wouldn't have life without faith. That, to me, is what it means to put my whole self in faith, to be where my feet are, and to know that all good things will come when I have faith in God. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. So on this final week of our sermon series, I again invite us to reflect with hearts full of thanks and praise, to offer our prayers of thankfulness to God, the source of all our gifts. But don't let it stop there. How can you take your gratitude and transform it into action? An outpouring of generosity to God and others, enabling your gratitude to multiply. So once again, this is your final week to do this. You're going to take that sticky note in your bulletin. Or, if you're worshiping with us from home, any piece of paper and something to write with. And I'm going to give you a moment or two, a minute or two, to reflect on something tangible that you are going to do to transform your gratitude into action. So on one side of the paper, I want you to respond to the blessings in your life. I want you to write down at least one blessing that you are grateful for this morning. And on the other side, I want you to write down a tangible way to express your faith to God. Now, we've talked about prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness just to kind of guide that thinking. But what's your tangible way to give thanks to God? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and Anthony's going to kind of give us some musical inspiration underneath to just take that time. So share what we're grateful for and share a tangible way that we will give that to God.